I understand all those words, but separately.
I know those words, but that sign makes no sense.
This problem is a very interesting language learning problem, and it happens in a very specific set of circumstances. I want to talk a little bit about that problem today because I've experienced it, and maybe my method to fix that might be useful for you. So recently I was listening to a Korean video on YouTube. There was a noticeable problem while I was watching it that I wasn't writing down a lot of words, a lot of grammar structures, because I already knew everything I was encountering. The problem was, altogether, I still didn't get it. So I'm facing a really interesting problem where my vocab and grammar are enough, but comprehension is lagging behind. Usually vocab and grammar are the main things that make you not understand something, but there's times where you understand everything, but not together. This kind of problem can be really frustrating because it's difficult to know what to do. If you don't know a vocab word, it's really simple to just learn that word. If you don't know a grammar structure, you can just learn that grammar structure. But when you holistically have a difficulty understanding what was said, it's kind of hard to conclude what you need to do. Do you just need to keep reading it? What do you need to look at different sources? Let's go over that. So what is the problem? If you have difficulty understanding the whole thing, even though you understand every part, why are you experiencing that? One thing could be is that you're just not used to how this language words things, and you're not used to the juxtaposition of certain ideas. For example, in English, we say, I think that, and then we give our opinion. The sentence is about me cogitating, and then I'll tell you my opinion. In other languages, it works a little differently. Maybe you share your opinion with a special sentence ending. Maybe you share your opinion in another way, and you're just so stuck on your language's way of wording things. So that's related to being too used to your own language and not accustomed to the new one. And then there could be another issue that you're thinking too abstractly. I am very guilty of this. I really like thinking about how words interact with each other and the structure of the sentence and the grammar tree of the sentence, but actually that could be detrimental in some circumstances because you're not looking at it as language, you're looking at it as if it's calculus on a piece of paper. There's a human element to language that we really shouldn't forget. I think I'm super guilty of making language super abstract and thinking of it as if it's math. That can have this really bad effect where you don't understand something overall, even if you understand every piece. Another reason you might not be understanding something, even if you know all the words, is that you're missing some implications. Really often in languages, we skip words because we think it's obvious from context. And it's obvious to native speakers, but for a learner, you might not understand that context. For example, in English, I could say something like, if only I studied harder. And that's my whole sentence. There's kind of an implied second part, right? If only I studied harder, I would be better. There's some kind of hope and maybe a regret for the current situation. Imagine that, but in your target language. There's probably a lot of situations like that where they're not saying the key point and you're way too focused on that structure, even though they're implying something that they're not saying. A native speaker might know exactly what they're trying to say, but the learner didn't get the most key word that they deleted. Another reason you could be experiencing this problem is you're trying to translate and not trying to comprehend. When we speak in our native language, we just kind of say things, we don't think about what comes next, we don't think about agreement, we just do. But language learners have to do something that's very unnatural. They have to translate. Okay, this means this means this. I should use this grammar, so this should agree with this. There's a lot going on, and at some point, you need to forget that and just look at things holistically. Again, in your native language, I'm sure there's so many times where somebody says a word you don't know, but from the context, you understand what they're trying to say. This is the problem. You are not looking at the context. You are trying to translate. You're thinking about, what does this word mean? What does this word mean? Calm down, relax. Just look at things overall. Look at the big picture. So I'm telling you the problems. What are the solutions? Maybe you can scale back your translation exercises. Of course, this is extremely important if you're a beginner. But as things move on, you might want to cut back on those translation exercises because you might just be going through the motions. You're not getting things overall and you're analyzing things too deeply. So maybe you don't have to translate those lyrics. Relax a little. Something else you can implement to deal with this issue is to increase language input without taking so many notes that break up the flow of learning. So I think we've all experienced when you're reading something, you're watching something, you pause it so that you can take notes. Well, that's not reality. When someone's speaking to you, you can't pause them and look up what they're saying. You have to roll with the punches, you have to continue how things are, and that's really what you should be doing with your language input. There is a certain rhythm of that language that you're losing if you keep pausing to take notes. So sometimes passive learning is good. Not everything has to be active. You don't have to actively take notes on everything you encounter. Another thing you could do to work on this problem is to summarize, not parse. In my Latin class in university, I remember we had to parse sentences. We had to look at this word, we had to write down noun declension, singular or plural, feminine, masculine, or neuter. Then we had to look at verbs. We had to say second person, present indicative, third conjugation. We had to go really deep like that and look at the language as if it were math. Don't parse things so much. If you're learning a dead language, go for it. If you're learning a constructed language, go for it. But if you really want to get to speaking, you want to listen like a native, you need to summarize things. That's what we do. Again, I keep bringing up that's what we do in our native language, but the point is valid that that's what we do when we speak a native language. We are not breaking down every word they say as present, indicative, second person, plural. We don't go that deep, right? If I told you to parse this verb, maybe you'll struggle because you just don't do it that often. If I asked you to summarize what someone just said, you could probably do that. Focus on that in your language study. If you really have to pause things and take a moment to breathe, summarize things. Don't break things down so literally. Think of things holistically. Another thing you could do is to immerse yourself more. Of course, immersion is so important, and I think you might be missing some immersion if you can't understand everything despite knowing all the words and grammar. So you really should immerse yourself more. That could mean watching more movies, that could mean watching more TV shows, change the language of your phone, that could mean a lot of things. Just increase your input of the language. That's the only thing that can help. Opening your textbook and learning more grammar is not going to help you with this particular issue, and opening Anki and memorizing more words is not going to help you with this particular issue. So I also need to emphasize again that I'm talking about a specific problem in language learning. I'm not saying you should not learn vocab and grammar. I'm not saying you should not pause the video or music to take notes. I'm saying if you're having this issue, scale those things back a little. Immerse yourself more. So the takeaway of this video should be that language learning is the balance between theory and human interaction. I think every language learner has to balance these two things very carefully. The ones that emphasize human interaction so much that that's all they do would benefit from a little bit of theory. The extreme example of this would be those no sabo kids that I talked about in a previous video. The kids of immigrant families that never really learned the grammar of their language, but they can speak it with lots of problems. And then on the other side, if someone is way too focused on theory, they would benefit from a little bit human interaction. And this is the issue I'm talking about today. If you understand all those words separately, you open your book or you open the YouTube video and you are just shocked, oh, I cannot understand this. Take a step back, put human interaction back into your learning. It's gonna help. I hope that can be useful for some of you. This is a problem that's really common with a lot of language learners, a lot of online language learners that really love books. I am one of them, so keep things human. Language is something spoken by humans. Bring back humanity. So thank you for watching today's video. You can follow me on my social media accounts, which will be in the description below. I have a website where I talk about language-related things. One thing that you can do to bring more human interaction back to your theoretical language study is to speak a little. Even if you speak to yourself, even if you speak to an app, that can be helpful for you. One tiny step to get that human interaction is to force yourself to speak more, and the app UTalk can help you with that. I have a link in my description where you can get 30% off any purchase from UTalk, and this could be helpful for some of you. So I'll see you for another video very soon, so bye bye.